Thanks for logging on to myfoxhurricane.com. Still watching these three areas in the tropics, and really a whole lot hasn't changed with these over the past couple of days. They just continue to slowly work their way on towards the west. Those percentages have been coming down, especially on this one that is now working its way through the Caribbean. You see down to about a 30% chance over the next 7 days, and that at this point may even be generous to call it a 30% chance. And then we have these two other areas. You still are seeing more of that dry Saharan dust working its way off the coast of Africa. And that's been an issue really all season long and will continue, at least for the short term, to be an issue. So first stop is the area working its way through the Caribbean, and it's still a very disorganized tropical wave. You are seeing these flare-ups of convection, and then they tend to go away. But as you look at this, you can tell there's no sign of really any organization. You need to start to see this kind of rotating and starting to try and form that center of circulation. And this is clearly just a tropical wave that will continue to work its way towards the west over the next several days. So as it works its way over into the Western Caribbean, there's plenty of warm water in place. The wind shear looks like it will be conducive, so may start to see some development with this, but then it has to deal with land and then work its way into the Bay of Campeche, the southwestern Gulf of Mexico. So if it can make its way into this area, there's that small chance that something could happen with this. But more and more, the models are basically kind of keeping this very far to the south or maybe even over land. And if that were to happen, there's just more land interactions, or it's completely over land. And that kind of erases its ability to do anything. That's why these chances right now may still be a little generous. Kind of have to wait and see on this one. So then you look further out into the Atlantic, you got this one off the coast of Africa, really kind of entrenched into a lot of that dry air. So you can see that one just continues to struggle. Then yesterday we had this area looking a lot more impressive. We had some big flare-ups of convection, and you're still seeing some flare-ups of convection. But the other thing is, it's just not really moving along, just kind of locked in there. And so it continues to struggle. You look at the kind of the visible satellite loop with that Saharan dust kind of mixed in there, and we just continue to watch more of these bouts of that dust working its way off the coastline. And that, again, has been a big factor in cutting down the number of tropical waves that have been impressive, that have been vigorous, working their way off the coastline. The other thing that we're starting to see more and more discussions about is these waves have been coming off a bit further to the north. Typically, you expect to see them coming right off the coastline, much further to the south, and they've been coming off a little bit more towards the north, kind of entrenched in some of this dry air. We've got some cooler water temperatures up here as well, and then they work their way down to the south. And then also, once they work their way down to the south a little bit more, they're moving into an area where we have that stronger wind shear. So there's been a number of factors that have really kind of come together, it looks like, to cut down on the number of these vigorous waves that have worked their way off the coastline. So this time of the year, we are looking out across the eastern Atlantic for those waves that come off the coastline. That's what produces a lot of this part of the hurricane season. But we've been talking about it. It's been quiet, and it looks like it'll continue quiet over the next couple of weeks. But as we head towards the end of September, heading towards October, really our focus starts to go away from the eastern Atlantic, and we start to look closer to home, back towards the Caribbean, the Gulf of Mexico, and the western Atlantic. And conditions look like they will be more favorable because we're not seeing as much wind shear. But everywhere you're seeing those very warm waters. So it does look like eventually the season it's going to start to pick up. But as far as this one working its way across the Caribbean, there you see with the Fox model showing a lot of land interaction. So the likelihood of this one developing still very, very low. Of course, we're watching all these areas, and we will keep you updated right here on myfoxhurricane.com.